Hi everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Faz.
And my name is Ridge.
It's so functional again. I always like it when it's like that. Hi everyone, we are going to do one of our patented...
Oh, have we actually...
No, I'm patented.
Okay.
Do you know how much it costs to fucking patent things? It's
too much.
Honestly, it's insane. I think I've talked about this before, probably about 6 or 7 times on different starts of podcasts, because it's an interesting thing, but it's just like £300 to patent something. And I'm like...
Is it worth it?
Yeah, well, it's not worth it. Well, no one uses it like, it's not as if it's getting 60,000 sort of like, hits on some social media site somewhere. Like,
Yeah, when it gets onto Google keywords.
When I do put like hashtag free play fortnightly onto our Instagram posts, it's like, oh, there's been 14 posts about this. And I'm like, I've posted way. I'm like, that's way more I've done than this. So, anyway, this is one of these episodes that we take a game, keep it secret from each other, then we play said game, review said game, and then hopefully we give the right impression to our partner to be able to say this is what the score is. I think we've been a bit lapse recently on. We've been a bit like, oh yeah, I guess an 8 or a 9, maybe. And actually we probably should have been a bit harsher on each other and ourselves and been a bit like, no, you need to read my mind more. my weird depraved mind,
right?
And try and get into each other's thoughts about it.
Right?
Yeah. Do you not feel that way?
Not really.
No, fair enough. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So, should we do Rochambeau? First.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Right. Okay, right. Wait a minute. Every time. Rock, paper, scissors, go. Oh, scissors. Paper, scissors, go. Paper comes rock.
Paper comes
Rich
rock.
has won. Everyone loves that. It's great podcasting.
I mean, at least we say what we've got rather than like, oh, and we just move on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes.
Right. So, when we were talking about Bond games recently,
yes.
I was talking about Everything or Nothing and how close I got to the end of it, and then decided to go play something else because, I spent my bank holiday weekend finishing off Unbeatable.
Okay.
I beat Unbeatable.
Yes, good. Well done.
So this came out in 2025 on the PC. Are you familiar with it in any way, shape, or form?
Nothing about this now.
Excellent. So do you recall when the Scott Pilgrim film came out?
Yeah.
Thought you might.
Sorry, I was like nodding
enthusiastic nodding. So like I could imagine that this game could almost be like kind of some people's Scott Pilgrim if they're a touch younger than us kind of thing. So like, loud brash indie stuff, and there's just a vibe to it that, is just...
Wow, you said vibe with a real vibe.
Yeah, didn't I? Like it taps into all that. So you've got a world where music has been outlawed, and a little group of people banding literally and figuratively together.
Oh wait, no, I do know this now.
Yeah,
now you said what the concept is.
Okay. And the whole thing has like a kind of not quite point and click adventure, but you're wandering around, talking to people, and then you will have action sequences that will play out like a rhythm game. So you'll either be beating people up or like firing baseballs back at people and all sorts of stuff. There's a couple of like incidental little one-off mini game type things as well in there. Like at one point later on, you tend a bar and you have to like shake the shaker to the beat that it gives you and stuff like that. But a lot of them seem to be like, will pop up, you'll do them, and then you don't really see them again. There's a couple that recur throughout because it's arranged as sort of a set of 6 episodes. And so there are a few types that will pop up all the way through. But yeah, they're all kind of variations on a theme, if you like. And it looks great, right? I really like the art style. There's some really nice animation in there as well. So many of the characters have like musical names and stuff like that. And it's just got real like swagger about it, right? I really like creatively, art-wise, soundtrack-wise. That's always going to get you points in my world. A decent soundtrack, and this one delivers in spades. Which, considering the conceit of the game, you would hope it would. And yeah, like so much of it I really, really like. I think weirdly, like the kind of big thing for me, and I think this is something that was a bit of a recurring theme as the episodes came out, with other people as well.
So it was episodic in its release.
I believe it was. I could be wrong, but like certainly when you're playing it through, you will have like an end credit sequence 5 or 6 times over the course of the game.
You're very good at describing things.
Yeah, right.
The irony of that being a terrible sentence. What is the art style? Can you say?
It's definitely inspired by anime.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was necessarily full tilt anime, but it's pretty close. It feels like almost like a kind of it's I nearly said pastel anime. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's also not pastel colored. It's got some very clever use of color in it, and it's got a definite palette. Okay. There's a couple of like wide shots later on that almost reminded me of the title screen for Disco Elysium, but done in an anime style.
Okay, cool.
So if you've got that picture in your head, you're getting close.
I do now.
It's not necessarily bang on, but it's kind of there. And I really, really like what they have set out to do with it. I think for me, it's, like I say, I think this is not an original comment by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think the plot is a touch messy.
Okay.
And I think, and this is a complete guess, because I would have researched it, but I finished it about 20 minutes before my wife's parents took us out for dinner this evening.
Humble brag.
And I came to this conclusion somewhere just after the starters.
Oh, what did you have?
Dough balls. We went for a pizza.
Oh, nice. Fair enough. Good. Oh, yeah. Oh,
so
quite hungry now.
I think I get the impression that this was a real labour of love. This feels like the kind of project that, like, so I studied media arts at uni, right? So a lot of quite creative people, very like creatively intense period, and everybody was trying all sorts of different stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, different projects, and this feels like the kind of thing that I can imagine a bunch of like-minded people at a university or college had an idea, ran with it, and then kept running, and then managed to actually put something out. This feels like that kind of thing,
like the flow to flower to journey, like is in
but they've managed to get it all together, get it out. People got behind the idea, got behind the art style. There was a demo that was almost like a standalone game in itself. And then you get to this, like the kind of full release, if you like, and they've thrown everything at it. And I think it's a labour of love almost to its own detriment. And I think by wanting to put in all of their ideas, they haven't necessarily had the confidence to cut some stuff out and like streamline some of the narrative itself.
Yeah. So
the reason I'm hesitant with that, though, is at the same time, the plot is fundamentally about people and their relationships. And it's well written. There are bits.
They are messy.
And they are messy. So, like, thematically,
yeah,
it makes sense. Okay. But in terms of the actual, like, almost more science fiction aspects of the plot, I feel like I'm missing some, ironically, beats in that. And that it may be hidden in some of the notes or something like that. You can collect. There's plenty of collectibles and, you know, incidental bits and bobs that you can find. But like, I never felt compelled to trawl through that stuff or incentivized or anything like that. So like, I do feel like I'm missing a couple of like little gaps.
Yeah.
Not necessarily deal breakers or game changers or anything like that, because like I still, by the end of it, feel like I've got a relatively good grasp on, you know, what is going on. It's just that across the 6 episodes, if you'd have made it 5, maybe, and cut like an hour or 2 out, I think you could tighten it. Fair enough. Guess is what I'm getting at. You can kind of see the tweaks you could make to just tighten it up a little bit.
Can I ask at this junction?
Yeah.
Are you interested in playing Mixtape? Are you?
I can't say I am necessarily,
because this feels like almost like a a brethren, if you will, to that in a way. So having not played Mixtape, which is weird because I followed it from like, as soon as I saw that got announced, I was like, I can't wait to play it. And then there was such a massive discourse online about it, and I was just like, I can't be arsed on that bullshit. I'll literally play it when everybody stopped talking about it and make up my own mind. But it just, I the way you're speaking about this, I'm like, oh, this sounds like it's literally pulling the same like violin string inside me to say, you know, oh, that's what it's intriguing me about this as it would be intriguing me about that. I don't think it's necessarily the same game, but
yeah, to be honest with you, I don't know much about Mixtape.
Okay.
A large part of what drew me to Unbeatable was the art style, and the soundtrack is just a kind of a benefit. And it's a kind of eclectic mix. But like, yeah, it's not necessarily. I didn't necessarily pick it up to play it because it was a narrative rhythm game. Like, I didn't necessarily pick it up for the mechanics.
I think that's the different. That's not a similarity necessarily, but it almost feels like the art style and having the soundtrack and things. And when you mentioned what it was about, I was like, oh yeah, I know. Like, I think I've probably even mixed them up in my own head at some point over the last year,
quite possibly,
and not even like paid enough attention about which one was coming when.
Well, to be honest with you, and I am looking up Mixtape right now because in my head the art styles are quite different.
Okay.
And I don't know how accurate that is. So yeah, like, I think that looking at the screenshots for Mixtape, it looks very different.
Okay, cool.
So like, Unbeatable compared to Mixtape, if Mixtape looks almost like your kind of K-pop Demon Hunters, kind of Pixar type, computer animated type anime, Unbeatable looks more like your 80s or 90s Saturday morning cartoon.
Oh, okay.
Like 2D hand-drawn style. So it art-wise, I think it looks quite different. And
thank you. Sorry, I just
no, it's all right. It's good to clarify these things. But yeah, like, it, considering so much of the game has that narrative bent, like, having it be as, and I don't want to say bloated, that sounds too harsh, but like, there's definitely some nips and tucks you could have made, a couple of edits that I feel you could have made, and it still would have stuck the landing.
Yeah.
Because there's some great writing in there. Like, I one of the bits I did manage to find when I had a very quick look for, you know, what general sentiment was about it. You know, the kind of writing about relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the interactions between characters and some of the dialogue, like, is absolutely on point. The problem I had with some of that is that I ran into some technical hiccups as well on the Steam Deck.
Okay.
And like, a couple of times where, like, it seemed as though characters were trying to like talk over each other in a natural way, like you would expect, but the timing on it was coming through. They were practically talking over each other completely.
Oh, okay.
So rather than like I just did to you, talking over the last couple of syllables, it would have been like if I'd started talking when you said "oh" and you kept saying "okay," and the timing was just off on the delivery, you know.
I'm being really aware that I do that to you all the time with the podcast.
No, but that is a natural like way that people approach conversations, right? Yeah. It's naturalistic, and it goes for that. Even though you're having to like press A to forward the conversations, it goes for that. But even still, I was getting like multiple press A prompts at the same time and stuff like that.
So it definitely wasn't an artistic like choice.
I don't think so. I think to an extent it was where they were going to overlap a little bit, but there's overlapping a little bit, and there's completely talking over each other. I can't hear what anybody's saying. Exactly, right? Yeah, like we just did there. So like, between that and the fact that when you start the game up, you actually have to calibrate your inputs and stuff like that for like, because so much of it has a beat to it.
Yeah.
They make you go through a little calibration tool. And I think I made a fatal error of playing it on the big TV downstairs when I first started it up. Did that, you know, with the controller and stuff like that. So when I was playing it on the Steam Deck itself, my timing so often was so off. And like, I play bass. I'd like to think that I'm not that far off.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm a little bit behind the beat sometimes, but like, I know I'm a little bit behind the beat sometimes. So if I'm playing a rhythm game, I can compensate.
Yeah.
And I was still like not even close. Like there were definitely times where I was convinced either it was registering double inputs when I was like pressing A instead of the shoulder buttons, and you can use both because quite often you'll have like you can say if you're in a fight, you'll have I don't know what you would call them necessarily. You're kind of scrolling icons to tell you when to press a button, coming from above and below, and you can like you have layers to contend with, or you can use the face buttons and stuff like that. So you do have some input options. But I was convinced that like the inputs on the shoulder buttons were working better than the triggers, which were working better than the face buttons.
Yeah.
Like the face buttons, it was almost like it wasn't registering A half the time and stuff like that, or it was double registering. And just weird things like that that like didn't seem to feel like it was quite firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think it was all me. It could well have been, but like
interesting.
Yeah.
I mean that's the main thrust of the game.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm thinking of Patapon, for example, where that's so accurate that I'm just bad at Patapon. But I know that Patapon's really well made.
Yeah.
Whereas this sounds like, not necessarily it's poorly made, but there's enough, a few bits here and there with the overlap in the speech and also those buttons not quite being where you want them to be.
Yeah.
The optimization doesn't sound...
Optimization's a good way of putting it. And like there are a couple of times where even in dialogue, the spoken dialogue will be different to what's written in the speech bubble, or sometimes you might have something written in the speech bubble that isn't said out loud, even in a conversation where everything else has been, or, you know, little bits like that. And you get the impression that various edits to the dialogue were made on the fly, potentially.
Okay. I
do not know if that's the case or not. It's just the impression I got. So yeah, between that and some of the button inputs, you just like, yeah, it feels like it was... there were perhaps some running repairs on it, you know. But like I say, on the whole, it all hangs together quite well. There's an arcade mode as well, so if you do particularly enjoy some of the tracks, you can go back in and play them on different difficulties and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, granted, I did only finish it earlier this evening, but like it's not like I'm sitting here now going like, and I really feel like I've got a reason to go back. I kind of don't. I like the art style, though, so like... you know, if an art book popped up, it's the kind of thing that I would go like, yes, shelf candy.
How long did it take you to complete all?
So a shade under 9 hours.
Okay.
Which again, I think because I was just plowing through the narrative, you do have like little side things you can do. I would hesitate to say they were side quests.
Yeah.
I don't think they're quite that substantial, but like there's incidental side things you can find and get comments on and stuff like that as you're roaming town. So like it could have been longer. I haven't 100%ed it by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't get the impression there's enough there to warrant me going back in. Or, you know, there's enough there to draw me back in. It's also the kind of game where it feels like it finishes about 2 hours before it finishes.
Okay.
And so you kind of, it's that sort of thing where like, I get pacing, narrative pacing is probably the concise way of putting it. It just feels like it's a little bit, oh God, I nearly said self-indulgent, and I don't think it is deliberately. It just that is how it can come across a little sometimes. And it's, I would put that down to, and I do not know the creative backgrounds of any of the people involved, but like the impression I got was that it was almost like a little bit of a lack of confidence that you can edit your own narrative and still have the same point come across in a more concise way. It was almost like they went, we've got a story to tell and we're going to tell the whole thing, whether you like it or not, in like quite laborious detail. And like considering some of the themes that it's trying to unpick by the end of it, I think that's a bit of a tall order. I fully applaud them for trying. I fully applaud how they approach it. It could have been shorter and still done the same job.
Okay. So, were you emotionally drawn in by the narrative? Because it sounds like you're being really respectful of the game, but not necessarily that it touched you in a way that other games have.
I think that's a pretty accurate assessment. I do respect what it's trying to do. I don't think I was necessarily emotionally invested for the main reason that a lot and I'm trying to dance around spoilers a little bit here, considering it's still relatively recent. It felt like there was a little bit of a rug pull towards the end, narratively, that, having seen how it all plays out, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's unwarranted. It's not necessarily... It doesn't necessarily feel as earned as it perhaps could. And some of the breadcrumbs that might lead you to it are perhaps not there. It's not like one of those ones that you look back and you go, oh, that totally makes sense of everything now. It feels like it could be a little... If you were being harsh, you could say it was perhaps they'd written themselves into a corner and it was a bit of an easy/lazy way out.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being more charitable than that. I do think this was the end game they had envisaged. I don't think they suddenly had a U-turn on the ending.
Yeah.
But by the end, because it does explain a lot, but it's not necessarily approached in a way that I would necessarily... I'll tell you what. Let me backpedal a bit. I would be really curious to see what would happen if they did a re-release as a director's cut.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be really, really curious to see if that makes the game shorter or longer.
Okay.
It's that kind of thing where I think it's doing enough to be interesting. It's doing it in a broadly engaging manner, but at the same time, given 5-10 years removed from the original subject matter, I do wonder if somebody would be able to, who was close to the project, would be able to look at it and go, oh, actually, we don't need that bit, or we could move that bit, or we could do that in a more concise way. I'd be really, really curious. And so, yeah, I think respecting it is absolutely accurate. I'm not necessarily emotionally invested in it. I think it's presented in a way that is trying to be moving, and it didn't necessarily move me. And I don't mean that as like a...
You're dead inside. I hear you.
Yeah, like... it's so difficult to try and articulate what I'm trying to get at without just going into spoiler territory.
Okay. Well, don't,
Yeah, it's... I wasn't as invested as I perhaps could have been.
Yeah.
I think the bit that I'm dancing around and trying to pin down the words for is, I think ultimately, considering the art style, considering, how so much of it is set up, but then it kind of flounders a little bit. I think ultimately what I'm boiling down to... ultimately, I wasn't as emotionally invested in it as I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Like, I was ready to be there.
You can feel that.
Like, I think I really wanted to be more involved, like, more up for it at the end of it than I was.
Yeah.
I think by the end of it, I was almost more like, maybe not exhausted, but like... And I guess even thematically, that kind of ties in with it, though. Like I say, this is it. It comes back down to, like, I absolutely respect what it's doing.
It's provoked a lot out of you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like, and in that respect, I am invested in it. It's just that I'm more invested in it as an art project than the story it's telling.
Yeah.
Which I think is two very different things.
Is this the kind of video game that you think that, like 21-year-old Rich would have been like on the train with, in terms of, developing and
shit, like if this popped up as even a remote possibility when I was at university, I'd be all over it. And I think that's probably why I'm invested in it. I think there's a large part of me that's like, this is the kind of thing that I wished I'd come up with.
Yeah. And
like, even the some of the music and stuff like that, it's the kind of stuff that I wished I'd come up with. And it's the kind of stuff that I still wish I would have come up with.
Yeah.
Like, it ticks many of my boxes, creatively.
Yes.
Which I think is why it feels a bit disappointing to have a 9-hour narrative that feels like it could have been told in 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Like, it's an odd duck in that respect. I fully appreciate that it's probably not going to win a bunch of awards and all that kind of stuff. But there is something about it that I do kind of like. And ultimately, I saw it through to the end, which like, I'm not afraid to walk away from a game if I'm not having fun.
Yeah,
so,
well, I was going to ask that before, but you had answered it by the fact that you finished it. I don't need to ask that question anymore. I know that you won't finish it if you don't like it. So I know it's on the positive side of things. And like you say, you've definitely gone into enough detail to say that, you know, really respect it creatively and stuff. Right, I'm going to really try hard to get your number in your head now. Okay. 7.
Yeah.
Is that...
yeah. No, I genuinely, I think it was, like, I think it's one of those ones that I want to give it higher.
Yeah.
But I kind of can't. I don't feel like I can.
That's the kind of game that I would have given a 6. And I'm always like, right, add one more for Rich. Because I think that, you know, you like, when you give a score, you're like, yeah, I'll just go to the positive things about it and all the good things about it. And I get what you mean. Like, as in, everything about what you describe for the game is everything that I would want in a video game. And I love a good rhythm game, even though I shit at them. Like, I love all that, you know, like what sounds like the narrative and where it comes from and the animation style and everything. That all sounds really, really good. Sometimes, though, like you say, whether you like it or not, and you're like willing something to succeed so much that it can drop a ball and you go, I can't justify it. I can't defend it for that. And
but for my point, like I enjoyed it despite the fact it's a rhythm game, not because of.
Oh yeah,
like,
okay, fair enough.
I'm not a huge fan of rhythm games, but the soundtrack on it was enough to pull me through. And like part of the problem I had was occasionally it would be trying to give you exposition while you're doing the rhythm game bits and stuff like that. And I'm like, but I'm trying to keep up with the plot.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not here for the rhythm bit. That can just, like, if you just give me an option that it will just play through, that's fine. I will just sit here and listen to the track and pay attention to the narrative.
I'm a late 30s man. I can't do those two things at the same time.
Yeah. Don't ask me to do two things at once. What do you do? So yeah, like, I think 7 is fair.
Fair enough. I am super intrigued by that. And I think I'll go away and play that and see how I feel about it.
I think it's worth a crack.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a bit of a Marmite one. You're either going to be well over it, well over it, all over it, or
like Marmite.
Or well over it.
Well, all over it like Marmite. Okay, cool. So I've gone for one that's a bit more well known. And you know, we'll see how it comes down, how I feel about it too. So, Infamous.
Oh yeah,
is probably quite infamous. 2009, a PS3 exclusive at the time. I don't know if it's been ported anywhere else. I don't think necessarily, or
maybe PS4.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's, you know, Sony, like Sucker Punch made it, and they've, as far as I'm aware, have only ever published for Sony. Developed for Sony even. They've done the Sly Cooper series, and they've done the Ghost of Yotei Tsushima. You know, they basically, I wouldn't say have had a bad game, really. That is in the, and usually they get out when the going's good. Like, they'll know sort of like to get out of a certain series. Like, I think they did the first 3 maybe of the Sly Coopers, and I think Sly 4 is meant to be okay, but it's almost like they'll do whatever they want to do in that series and then go, yeah, no, we're done with that. Same with Infamous, they did a few, yeah, no, we're good with that, we'll leave and we'll go do something else. So I always respect a development company that kind of just know they've got a good thing and get out while the going's good as well.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody that I know of, and certainly look at the list of games they've developed where you kind of go, oh, actually, there's been a bad Sucker Punch game necessarily. So, you played much Infamous? I know you didn't have much of a dabble around that era, PS3-wise.
Not Infamous itself. There was... what was the one that was on PS4? Really early doors that had
Second Son? First Light?
First Light.
Yeah.
That was the one with the person that could shoot fireworks or whatever it was. Yeah. That one I did muck about with a little bit. Enjoyed it, but didn't necessarily stick around.
Yeah. They're a bit... It's funny. It is a funny series because they are all sort of, as you would expect, interlinked, but they are also a bit disparate as well. They're not quite like, you know, what you'd expect to see in a franchise that, you know, that has what you'd consider quite a strong protagonist, certainly in the first one, and they kind of make creative decisions to change that up. during the series. So I can see how if it was I didn't play this at the time, but I remember I had friends who played this and the second one and were like, this is absolutely amazing, incredible sort of thing. So I wanted to go back and have a little dabble with it. This was initially conceived as a superhero game crossed with Animal Crossing, apparently. What the fuck does that look like? Like, as in, it definitely doesn't bear out in the game when it became what it was. But I'm like, what does a superhero? I mean, is that Pokemon? Like, is that like the Pokemon Pokopia? Is that what that's called?
Pokopia?
Pokopia? I don't know. It just seems like a very weird thing.
It's a good question.
I don't know. I couldn't find out what that actually envisaged. That was what apparently it was, and I just thought it was interesting.
I mean, I guess Pokemon like do things like shooting fire and reading minds. In that respect, makes sense.
So this is, like I said, PS3 exclusive. Kind of when I would envisage as somebody that owned a PS3 has the Xbox 360 being in its pomp, and I feel like it was probably good for Sony certainly at the time to kind of go, we still have PlayStation exclusives, and obviously the tables are completely turned now. And Sucker Punch are one of those developers that have kind of helped that come along. And I feel like as well we're hitting 2009. Well, I certainly am personally hitting 2009 quite hard in the last sort of couple of years of the podcast. Because it just seems like and this is going to come up in a few weeks' time that I've sort of not even spoke to you about yet, but I've put a Google sheet that isn't something else about 2009, which we'll come to in time. But I'm looking at sort of, and this becomes an important point towards the end of my review. But I played like Uncharted 2 for the podcast, Arkham Asylum for the first time, Borderlands, Bayonetta. I've got Assassin's Creed 2 coming up at some point over the next couple of months as well. That is I'm really digging deep on 2009, and just to sort of like
one of those crazy years where like everything came together.
Yeah. So
like 98 meant to be another big one.
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, that doesn't fit with the narrative of the podcast that I'm going to set up, but okay, that's fine. Yeah, cool.
As you were.
But we could do that. That's fine. Anyway, back to this game for now. So this was a 2009 crop, if you will. So, anybody that's not played Infamous before, so it's third-person action-adventure superhero game, open world, very much of that brown era of video games where, and I would compare it to, like, not positively or negative necessarily, just sort of like of that GTA 4 sort of like, like just after that era there, where like it's kind of like that kind of game, whereas like you're as open world as you possibly can be within a city, but you still got the confines of the city. So, you play Cole McGrath, McGrath. I don't know how you say that. McGrath. I'm gonna go with McGrath anyway. So basically he gets involved in an incident where it kind of blows up almost in a way, like and somehow becomes this weird electric wielding super being. Whilst that's happening, there's a very odd process going on in the background where there's a viral epidemic happening, and the whole of the city, Empire City, who knows where that is locked down, very much a la Dark Knight Rises situation. Which timing wise, where does that come? Dark Knight Rises, well, that 2009, 2010. That's like that. Oh no, maybe 12. That I think it's 2012. Anyway, though, I'm like, come on, guys. Like, how many times are we going to lock down fucking New York or Gotham or Empire City? Like, it's a little unoriginal by this point. Like, maybe it hasn't happened in 10 years. Maybe someone else needs to lock down. Oh no, happened in Spider-Man. Someone, why are we always fucking lock it? Just because it's an island, basically, Manhattan Island is just like, go lock it down.
Easy to lock down.
Gotta lock it down.
2012.
Never beats. Cool.
Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. Best lockdown of New York, though, Escape from New York is by far the best lockdown of Escape from New York.
What's your favourite New York lockdown?
Please. Oh my gosh. That's so like, okay. I've given enough there. There's got to be more as well, right?
Almost certainly. Almost certainly.
This, it's okay for a New York lockdown, especially because you are this superhero with these...
Top 5?
Yeah. I think we're there right.
Easily top 5.
Well, kind of, except for the viral epidemic thing that's going on in the background, which is everybody's just every NPC is just running everywhere, which I get because you would be, but just everyone's just constantly legging it everywhere. Like, everyone just needs to be a bit more chill. I think the epidemic would be okay if everybody wasn't around spreading it to each other like fucking psychos all the time. For some reason, you're living on a roof with your best friend Zeke. Zeke is one of the worst video game characters ever. Like, as in, he's meant to be. I don't know. Like, I think he kind of becomes a bit jealous of your superhero powers, but it depends on how you act, because this is one of these morale games where you can pick basically good or evil. Good or infamous. But yeah, I fucking hate Zeke. Like, as in, I want to push him off his own roof. Like, as in, it really annoying. I don't know. Is he from Houston? I don't really know where he's from. He's like a bit of a sort of Texas drawl behind him, and yeah, I don't know. He makes a Michael Phelps reference at one point, which just feels very on point, obviously for 2009. But I'm also like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. It didn't seem like a very well rounded out character, and then he starts getting to his like relationships, like is in over like the phone with Cole, and I'm like, I'm so not interested. Like, it just feels like they were trying to round out the world by this character who's your best friend that I just could not give a fuck about. Like, and the less I heard from him, the better.
Did he constantly ask if you wanted to go bowling?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Cousin, pretty much. I wish he had. It probably would have been more interesting. Yeah, so there's a key sort of the I guess the thing that makes Infamous tick, and probably most people remember it for, is the types of various unique combat that you come across. You've got melee and you've got ranged, and it's all a bit of a mix of all these different powers they've given to Cole, which probably Force Unleashed kind of esque ways. You've got the Force, but it's all electricity, and but I think there's 16 different powers, so there's quite a lot of different variants of the ways that you can use electricity. You I guess recharge yourself at different points around the city. I would say that they very rarely let you run out of the electricity that powers most of your powers, and they're very keen to make sure that you feel overpowered probably most of the time. But I think they do a really good job of providing enough different ways of doing the combat and keep on surprising you and going, oh, actually, you can do this now, and you can do this now, and you go, oh, that makes sense. That that from having electricity, whereas I'd say when you see Electro, for example, from Spider-Man, he kind of just seems to have one or two sort of the same shtick, whereas Cole definitely seems to have, like say, the vast array that you'd expect. Actually, electricity probably could do a lot of these things, and that's really fucking cool.
Is that ever billed as like the character's creativity or anything like that coming through?
What a good question. I don't think so. Cole, I found him quite elusive as a person to
it's not like he's suddenly
pin down,
like getting pegged as being very resourceful or anything like that.
So not really. The only thing that it's a big thing is that you can choose between types of power. So you're either good or you become evil, or through your choices. So there's different ways that you can do that, just kind of how you kick about the streets and treat people. But there's also specific story beats called karma moments, where it's very much like you can choose to, at this point here, for example, basically tell a citizen to do your dirty work for you so you don't get hit by this black goop that seems to be sending everybody crazy, or you can do it and be the hero and get infected for like 5 minutes or whatever. I very much was like, at the start, Cole says something like, have you ever been called a villain before? And I'm like, as soon as he said that, I was like, I'm going straight bastard. I'm going, I usually go hero in these things. But I was like, I can see how his story and the things that happen to him, I feel like I would be a bit aggrieved to a lot of things that kind of happen.
Yeah.
And you can see how it's probably easier to slide into the evil side of it than maybe do. And you can tell by the choices they give you. And the game's called Infamous. All of the easier choices are be a dick, and this will you get through this way quicker. And obviously, I'm trying to complete a game for a podcast as well. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go, let's be badass.
Speedrun, bitches.
And in that, then back to your original question, it segregates the powers, so you can only pick certain ones, and it's like, and the XP that you'll gain from that, or the karma that you build up from that, as soon as you build up certain ones that unlock certain powers, and it'll be like you can only do I don't know, I think it's like shot grenades, for example, might be one that you can only do on an evil side, but you get a different version. I don't think there's necessarily a difference in effectiveness to that. I think you could use either side. I'm sure you can complete the game and they've made it and thought about it. But certainly, it's a cool mechanic to go, actually, you know, you could play through this twice different ways and actually play it differently and get different powers. And with that melee being the thing that is constantly driving the game.
But it's all done from your choices in a menu rather than, say, Cole being in a cutscene, having a situation and then going, I can use my powers in this cool new way to resolve it.
So that kind of does happen, and that's on those karma moments where it's almost like, and I think it does kind of level it so much, like where you've just picked up a new power, but therefore, and then this moment comes up, and it's like, oh, you're probably going to use it. You're very much like poked in that direction. Where it's not driven from the character really. That is, like you say, it's just driven from the fact that it's a leveling up system.
Yeah.
So yeah, it hasn't quite reached the levels of what you'd expect necessarily. Maybe like, well, not even, you know, but like a pinnacle of AAA gaming where, you know, a character, you can imagine them making their own decisions based on what, you know, what is around them and things, or you're prodding them in the right direction. So yeah, no, I think that's a really fair point, and that does come back to that point. You know, come back to that. Cole is elusive, and I've not quite worked him out.
A blank slate.
Yeah, and I guess when you're playing with that karma system, and this is kind of how I felt when I was playing through on Knights of the Republic to start off with. When you have that system, because you're controlling that the whole time, that becomes your main focus of who you are. And actually, for me, I find that quite detrimental to that the characterization. I'd rather play in this game as Nico Bellic than I would do as Cole McGrath. I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing. It's just I think it could be done better, and maybe it is done better in later Infamous games. I don't know, but
it's a delicate balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah,
because like I know there was that period there where everybody just assumed game protagonists had to be blank slates so you could project yourself onto them.
Yeah,
and I get the impression that we collectively decided that having an actual character makes more sense.
I think that you decided that for you, and I decided I quite like a blank slate.
Nah, you and I remember that conversation very differently.
I don't generally mind there being a blank slate necessarily. That is, it was more like about mute protagonists, wasn't it? That is inside.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily mind that. Whereas Cole does plenty of talking, and he has things going on in his life.
Yeah.
Again, though, a lot like Zeke, I'm just not that fussed. That is in the, you know, and not even when you can see that there are things that would be positive and redeeming about him. I think even if you played a good playthrough on this, I don't think that necessarily you would feel more endeared to Cole. Like, really, I don't think so.
Still capable of being a bit of a dick.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't think that's to do with the karma system, really. There's a lot of things that are really good about this game. You know, it's quite lean, I would say, as lean as you want to make it. There are those areas, just like with Grand Theft Autos, and I'd hold this against them as well, where it's almost like, oh, you want to know more about this area? Defeat this many enemies, and it'll unlock more information about this area and make it less dark. And it's like, well, there's a certain type of enemy called Reaper enemies that are really fucking quite a ball ache to deal with, even with all your powers. And it becomes easy the more powers you get. And it was like, oh, defeat this many Reapers in this area, and then it'll unlock more information, you know, about this part of Empire City. Wink. And I was like, I'm not bothered. I'm just not going to go there. I'm like, unless the main mission goes there, I'm not that fussed. It keeps the map pretty clean. There's not a lot of side missions to kind of drag you away from things. They are available, and you earn, as you'd expect, sort of XP, and you unlock things from doing them. So they're worth doing, and they're not horrendous. Much like, God, I didn't realise this in games until I started playing so many games for the podcast. How many games since Assassin's Creed onwards have kind of done the go up the tower,
climb
and
the thing.
do the viewpoint, and then, you know, and that'll unlock all this information, and just like to the point now where it's like such a trope. I'm surprised someone's not thought of a new way of doing that, like is in, you know, or something a bit different, or just a more exotic twist on it. there may well be something out there that I've not played, but certainly I can see it so many times now where I'm like, are we still doing this? We're still going to the highest point and looking out with our hand on our brow going, ooh, what's over there? Like, as in, there must be a different way to do it. So that's in here. The cutscenes, they're really cool, sort of like, again, about being lean. It's not like heavy, overblown cutscenes. They're like comic book, as you expect for a superhero sometimes. Very much like Driver 76. I really enjoyed those. Lean, crisp, tell you the story, very pop arty, and keep the gameplay for the gameplay. Do you know what I mean? There's no QTEs and things like that. And here's looking at you, Spider-Man, for example. Like, it keeps the game and tells a story in cutscenes, very quick and easy, and then phone calls for everything else. And I think it does a really good job of keeping you on track all the time. For a game that's sort of, I think it's about 15 hours. That is in, I maybe a little bit towards the end of it, but I never really felt like it was pulling at me too much to go, oh, come on, hurry, when is this going to finish? And I think it just kind of keeps everything together really well. I'm thinking about like another game from 2009 that I was talking about a few months ago, like the Saboteur, and like sort of talk about the parkour in that. It's just so easy, like, as in compared to that. There is a fast travel sort of kind of system unlocked, which is a cool concept where you can power the railway line that goes around the outside of the island that you've unlocked, that part of the island that you've unlocked. So there's no cars in this at all, and that's kind of cool how they've locked it down, the epidemic sort of thing. So they don't have to worry about any driving, but eventually Cole can move around really rather quickly by powering himself along the railway lines.
Right. Very
cool. Good idea, because it doesn't take you exactly to where you want to be. It's not like, you can just get a taxi there. So you still got to do some traveling. I can imagine getting a lot of stick drift from this, though. That is a lot of pushing forward, a lot of running through the city. It's not horrendous, but I would have preferred that fast travel just to have been there straight away. It was probably about 3 or 4 hours in, and I was like, oh God, thank God this is here now.
Finally.
Yeah. And coming onto that rail thing, you can see all of Sly Cooper's rail platforming mechanics. There's a lot of climbing up girders, a lot of going along rails, and powering yourself along cables between buildings and things, where you kind of go, oh, right, okay, this is just literally
I know where we got this from.
Yeah, there's a raccoon that does this. So if you've played that, then you'll kind of know that a lot of the traversing between levels, and even in some missions as well, that is doing that really. So that's kind of all there is to it. There's just the combat, and then there's the platforming / parkour sort of thing. I wasn't massively, as a whole package, blown away. Not as much as I expected to be, but it doesn't do anything wrong either. Like, it's not something that I felt any emotional sort of like. I didn't feel too many thrills or anything. There's a few moments where you use a couple of powers and go, oh, that's pretty cool. But there was nothing that made it really super stand out for me, which I expected from what I understand and what most people thought about this series back then. And I wonder if that's just a time thing where time's moved on. I've played Spider-Man since then, and that almost just kind of does the same thing, really, but with webs rather than electricity. And even then, he's got like some electric powers and stuff. That is in. So it just... Yeah, and I wonder if it just doesn't benefit from that. But I don't think that's the game's fault necessarily either.
Yeah, maybe that's one of those ones where if you were there at the time.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then I don't want to hold it back for that. But at the same time, I was like, I got through it, and I was like, yeah, that was pretty good, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
So I know I've not really helped you out there, but I'm going to give you a little bit more help.
Right.
Kind of like, I don't expect you to remember any scores, but like around the era of the times of the games that I've played and things.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm just gonna like basically, I've got a very clear score in my head, but so better than the Saboteur,
Not hard.
Better than Borderlands for me.
Mm-hmm.
Worse than Arkham Asylum. Worse than Uncharted 2, because I definitely got more emotional and just more of a thrill out of those. Certainly, worse than Bayonetta for me personally. As good. Stop cheating! You're not meant to look at this. as good. It's funny enough. That is in so.
You said you didn't expect me to remember the scores, so I'm looking at the scores so that I don't have to remember them.
And it was as good as Sly Cooper 1 for me. Like, as in, I played through on the Vita a couple of years ago. And weirdly, I'd kind of give it probably the same score, like along the lines of what Sly Cooper was. Don't look that up. But I enjoy. I think I enjoyed Sly Cooper a bit more. That it just had a bit more pizzazz to it. But so yeah, it was a good game, not a great game.
Well, I can't actually find the Sly Cooper
Excellent. So stop trying.
So that's probably
do you know what? Do you know what it was? So considering how much depth there was to all of the combat, and that was where it was all geared towards, and the idea was that you would probably spend 75% of your time fighting enemies. There's a lot of sort of same enemies. They just kind of become more brutish and gruntish and get bigger effectively. And then there's no going back to the sort of talk about when we're talking about James Bond, for example, the cover systems and stuff. There's no system to the way that you battle. It's almost a bit too wide open to here's all of your powers. You can't kind of dive behind any cars or anything necessarily, really, to sort of that you kind of bit, but not really. It almost feels like you're just out in the middle of a sort of open field and you're just firing all these really powerful things towards enemies. Some it's working on, some it isn't. It just doesn't seem to find itself in that combat system. And the game I'm thinking of was Arkham Asylum, where that just has a very clear, precise idea of what it wants the combat system to be, and became the blueprint for that. And this that came out at the same sort of time was really wishy-washy with its combat and expects you to do a lot of it. So
is that the single, we'll call it, worst aspect of the game?
Yeah, like, weirdly enough, yeah, I think so.
The combat.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Like
and the fact that, like I say, there's a lot of variety to what you can do. I wish it had almost like honed that in a little bit to be like, maybe give you 8 powers and maybe make it just a better combat system to kind of decide what it wanted to be.
I think I'm leaning towards about a 6.
Yeah, I'd have gone a 7. I would have gone a 7, but I think that it's not as good. It isn't as good as I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
It like I say, if you go back to those games and think about, compared to Arkham Asylum and Uncharted, I was probably, when I scored them, I mean, I gave Arkham Asylum an 8 and I gave Uncharted 2 an 8, and now people would be saying, oh, fuck, they're 10 out of 10 games. But when I played them, say 2024, 2025, whatever order I played them in, that is in how they feel like today to play.
Yeah.
And also the way that we normally score things. 8's a very, very good score. This definitely falls a little bit short of that. But yeah, it's not, it's very easy to play still, 16, 17 years later. You never feel like it's a drag necessarily. It just kind of feels like I just wanted more from it. I just wished, almost like you were saying, almost from Unbeatable and stuff. I kind of wanted it to be better than what it was. For me personally,
I've decided that I take it as a very good sign where I can look at something and go like, but I know exactly what I would do to tweak this.
Yeah.
I know exactly.
I know
what I
there's
would do.
more here somewhere.
Yeah, like, and it's purely for selfish reasons. And I'm not the creator of these things. They're not my babies, and I'm sure that were I ever to put anything even remotely like this together, I'm sure that there'd be a bunch of stuff that people would look at and go,
well, of course,
but I know what I would change.
Yeah.
But I take it as a good
else
sign.
will be on a podcast
talking
about us.
At least we're invested.
and it's an easy way for me to think about it. I would love to be Nathan Drake. I'd love to be Batman. I'm not that bothered about being Cole McGrath.
Fair.
And the brown, like, sort of grey veneer that sits over Infamous kind of is how I feel about it, almost in a way as well. Like, is in, so actually 6 maybe is not too far away, to be honest. So not a bad game, but not the best game I've ever played either. So
I mean, it compared to Everything or Nothing as well, where we were saying about standardizing.
Where's Jaws when
controls and well, not even that, just like being able to get in and play it as easily and straightforward as it sounds like you can. There's got to be something to be said for that as well. I don't think it's necessarily a given.
They do a good job of juggling the controls of all those different powers and stuff. They manage to fit it all onto a gamepad quite easily. And now that you've just mentioned it as well, like thing about enemies, for example, like the villains of the piece in this, that kind of like the shady people in the background, like they're just kind of really nothingy. Like as in they're there, and you kind of just think, I don't even know really who I'm fighting against, who I'm defeating, and things, and it never really coalesces to be something that I'm that fussed about. And again, that almost plays into, maybe that's my playthrough of something like Infamous, like, or even like in Knights of the Republic. I'm so meh. Like, is it like, can that not be a choice? Can it not just be like, I couldn't give a fuck? I actually, maybe I'm more like Zeke than I think. And maybe I'm sat on the sofa on top of a building somewhere, just chilling out, and I don't really give a shit. Just let the world go to fucking absolute hell all around me.
We're done here, people.
Yeah. So, yeah, and probably on that note, I reckon.
I think we're done here.
I'm off to go see Jaws bite through a metal cable that Cole has electrified, and just sort of see what happens.
What is a bloody cable?
Right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Cheers.